A major rocket attack on the Kabul airport has been averted after the defences installed at the airport repelled incoming rockets. Local media reports say that 5 rockets were fired from a vehicle at Khabar Khane Lab area towards the Kabul airport. However, they were intercepted by a missile defence system. Witnesses say rockets struck Salim Karwan neighbourhood near Kabul airport. Gunfire immediately followed the explosions, but it wasn't immediately clear who was firing. At least one of the rockets hit a residential building, causing minor damage. The White House has confirmed a rocket attack at Kabul airport and has maintained that evacuation operations will continue uninterrupted. This comes a day after US forces launched a drone strike on an explosive-laden vehicle headed towards the Hamid Karzai International Airport.
همیشه خانه ما بود ساعت طرفای 6 بجه بود که یک چند خواب بودیم که یک چند صدای وحشتناک به گوش ما رسید. نفهمیدیم که صدای چی بود و وقتی که صدا خلاص شد دیدیم که موتر در گرفت. ما
همسایه‌ای که در قرابت با همین حادثه قرار داشتیم ساعت تقریبا 6 بجه بود که بسیار در خواب بودیم، یک صدای مهیب شنیدیم و ما رفتیم به منزل پایین که مخفی شویم. فکر کردیم که این حادثه مترقبه چی است، این تئوری امریکایی هم باشه. آخر دیدیم که یک موتر.
I'm here in the location near the impact site after a series of rockets were fired at Kabul airport. As many as 4 rockets come zooming in from Khairkhana located Labjar from mobile launcher attack vehicle. Ahmed Navid Kawesh from India Today and Ashtok, Kabul.
Now, less than 48 hours before D-Day for the US in Afghanistan. The countdown has begun for the US troops to wrap up their mission in Afghanistan. It will have to pull out all troops from Afghanistan's soil. Not only will most US troops make their way out of the country after 20 long years, US is also set to pull out all diplomatic presence. The US exit comes even as Kabul is reeling from a barrage of rocket attacks, a twin blast just 4 days ago, and heavy firing reported at the Kabul airport post that. US is among the last to exit Kabul. Over this week, UK, France, Germany all withdrew troops and citizens from the country. The Taliban have time and again reminded foreign troops that the 31st August deadline is non-negotiable. With the deadline looming, fresh reports suggest that Taliban's supreme leader, Hibatullah Akhundzada, is in Kandahar. The reports reaffirm that Akhundzada could take charge and lead Taliban 2.0. Some fortunate Afghans that have fled the country have managed to get out of the Taliban-controlled country, but how will Afghanistan, without the US, survive in the hands of the Islamic Emirate? The United States carried out its second retaliatory strike in Kabul on Sunday, targeting a car bomb headed for the airport. The strike came hours after US President Joe Biden declared that a drone strike in Nangarhar, which was carried out earlier, will not be the last.
US strikes back again with a preemptive airstrike against a group of would-be suicide bombers near Kabul airport. US Central Command spokesperson Bill Urban has confirmed the airstrike. He said the US conducted a self-defense unmanned over-the-horizon airstrike on a vehicle in Kabul. The main purpose of the airstrike was to eliminate an imminent ISIS-K threat to Hamid Karzai International Airport. He added that the military is confident that the strike successfully hit the target. The Central Command said that explosions from the vehicles indicated the presence of a substantial amount of explosive material. US says it is still assessing the possibilities of civilian casualties. The airstrike comes hours after US President Joe Biden's warning. The US president, like in the past, had warned of more terror strikes at Kabul airport and vowed to hunt the perpetrators down.
To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
This is the second airstrike conducted by the US military within 3 days inside Afghanistan. Earlier, US carried out drone strikes in the Nangarhar province of Afghanistan after 2 suspected suicide attackers struck in quick succession at the Kabul airport on Thursday. 13 US Marines and at least 170 Afghans awaiting evacuation were killed in the attacks. Both US and Taliban were quick to blame ISIS-K for the strikes. After the Nangarhar strikes, the US claimed that the mastermind of the Kabul airport attacks and a key member of Islamic State Khorasan were killed in the Nangarhar precision strikes. The Taliban too claimed that once the US fully exits the war-ravaged country, their fighters will go after ISIS-K.
हमारे तहकीकात जारी है। हम अभी तक नहीं कर सकते हैं कि मालूमात देता हूँ। इंशाल्लाह बाद में इसका मालूमात अच्छी तौर पर मालूम होगी और एक शक है कि इस काम का दाइश का हाथ है। दाइश अपनी ज़राए के वसीले में इस हमले का मसूलियत भी देता पहुंचोगे।
As the US winds down its Afghan operation, it may use its ability for long-distance strikes to protect itself from terror emanating from Afghanistan. Bureau Report, India Today.
Afghanistan on the verge of collapse after the Taliban took over the country. With the Afghan currency tumbling, food prices rising and even banks continuing to remain closed, some Kabul residents have protested. Here's our report.
Afghans took to the streets in Kabul on Saturday. Unhappy, an eyewitness said that banks have largely remained closed since the Taliban swept back into power. Concerns are growing in the capital over an impending financial crisis. The Taliban's takeover has sent the Afghani currency tumbling, and with many banks shut and food prices rising quickly, daily life is becoming more difficult. Elsewhere in the city, trader Safiullah Nazari said people are grateful for good security, but that financial problems are more dangerous than insecurity.
If the situation continues and employees of the government don't get their salaries and a businessman cannot get his money from the bank for trading, the result of this is very horrible. And there will be poverty in society as well, and no one can solve that issue.
Nazari said the Taliban had promised earlier in the week to reopen banks. Elsewhere in the Afghan capital, Taliban roadblocks prevented people from accessing the airport following a massive suicide attack on Thursday. Overnight, the US launched a drone strike against an Islamic State target in retaliation for the attack, in which 13 US service members and up to 170 others were killed.
While the Taliban has assured freedom of press, the reality on ground in Afghanistan seems to be completely different. A video of a television anchor surrounded by armed Taliban fighters has gone viral. The video shows a visibly frightened host of a political debate program reading a statement from the Taliban. The anchor was forced to praise the Taliban with armed men behind him in the studio. Reports of journalists being targeted had emerged since the Taliban took over Afghanistan on the 15th of August. A few days back, an Afghan reporter working with Tolo News and a cameraman were thrashed by the Taliban in Kabul while they were reporting in the city. Reports have emerged of Taliban fighters attacking journalists in the capital city of Kabul and Jalalabad. A woman journalist made headlines with her TV interview with Taliban spokesman and has now also fled Afghanistan. Beheshta Arghan said that like millions of people, she too feared the Taliban.
Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. مخکې دې چې تاسو پوښتنې ته ځواب ورکړم غواړم د دې اوسني وضعیت په اړه خپل ګران ولست مبارکي وایم د دې مثبت تحول په نتیجه کې چې الحمدلله موږ پس له څلوېښت
Ever since the Taliban takeover, there have been apprehensions concerning India's trade ties with the country. But a senior member of the Taliban leadership, Sher Mohammad Abbas Stanekzai, has said that the group wants to maintain trade, economical and political relationships with India, describing India as an important country in the region. The Taliban leader also said that the air trade route between India and Afghanistan needs to be kept open. He was referring to the air corridor between India and Afghanistan that was established to boost trade between the two countries in view of Pakistan's denial to allow transit access. India has been a key stakeholder in Afghanistan as it has invested nearly $3 billion in carrying out around 500 projects across the country. India Today's Akshita Nandgopal spoke exclusively to the Taliban spokesperson, Zabiullah Mujahid, on ties with India.
Mr. Mujahid, what exactly is going to be the diplomatic relations of the Islamic Emirate of the Taliban with neighboring countries, particularly with countries that have supported the previous government, like us, like the Indian government? Now, after the establishment, is there any desire to really ensure that, again, you restitch ties and relations with some of these countries, like India, again, who provide facilities? And is there also going to be a question of an ambassador from the Islamic Emirate being introduced to other countries? Is that going to happen?
شما می‌دانید که موضوعات دیپلماتیک و وجود سفیرها در کشورها یه کار متقابل است، از یک طرف نمیشه. ما خواهان ازی هستیم که تمام کشورها با ما روابط حسنه داشته باشه، به شمول هندوستان که کشور مهم منطقه است و در تاریخ با افغانستان روابط داشته و همچنان همکاری های داشته. ما می‌خواهیم که همکاری های سالمشان دوام بکنه، در راسته دیپلماتیک با هم روابط حسنه داشته باشیم. همچنان اگر نیاز میشه سفیرهای ما هم در تمام کشورها خواهد بود و سفرهای کشورهای دیگر هم در افغانستان فعلا هم هستند. فضای اطمینانی برشان مساعد شده و ما ترجیح میدیم که روابط خوب با تمام کشورها داشته باشیم.
So, Mr. Mujahid, you did touch upon how India's had good ties previously with Afghanistan. There is a worry here, however, and most of the reports seem to be suggesting this, that the Taliban was in collusion with Masood Azhar, and as Azhar has really asked some Taliban fighters from Afghanistan to be sent across to spread terror in Kashmir. If this really is true, and again I'm quoting reports here, how much can the relationship of India and Afghanistan be damaged?
ما مطمئنا گفته میتونیم که امارات اسلامی افغانستان اجازه نمیده که از خاک ما علیه کدام کشور دیگر خطر ایجاد شود. با همین پالیسی و با همین اساس ما اطمینان میتیم هم به کشور هند هم به کشورهای دیگر که از طرف ما برشان کدام تهدید وجود نخواهد داشت. در این مورد کدام چیزی که پخش شده یا آوازها و افواهات حقیقت نداره، ما رد میکنیم.
Mr. Mujahid, focusing on what's happening in Afghanistan and really the fight for Panjshir, we know that talks have been held by a delegation of the Islamic Emirate with the Northern Alliance that's led by Ahmed Masood. Has there been any sort of breakthrough, any agreements that have been reached? Can you take us through the conversation that's happened so far?
باور ما است که معلوماتی که اخیراً داریم گفتگوها هنوز هم هست. هر دو طرف تیمایشان به طرف خود برگشتن تا نظر نهایی رو با هم برسانند. یکی بعداً چی میشه فعلا گفتن نمیتونم، ولی غالباً شاید موضوع به جنگ نگرایه و به راه تفاهم مسئله حل شود.
Okay. India, meanwhile, is adopting a wait-and-watch approach when it comes to ties with Afghanistan. Here's what MEA spokesperson said when asked about whether India would recognize the Taliban regime.
The situation on the ground is uncertain, as all of you know. The primary concern, or prime concern currently, is the security and safety of the people. Okay. Currently, there is a lack of clarity, or no clarity, about any entity forming a government in Kabul. So I think we are jumping the gun here regarding recognition. We of course continue to monitor the situation very carefully. This is an evolving situation, and I think for the moment that's all I have to say about this element.
Now, the Battle of Panjshir Valley intensifying. The Taliban claim they've made gains in Panjshir Valley. The forces of the anti-Taliban resistance have, however, denied these claims. Ahmed Masood, spokesman from Panjshir, spoke to India today and said these reports are nothing but Taliban propaganda and that the Taliban have not entered Panjshir. Negotiations between resistance forces and the Islamic terrorist group are still going on. Taliban have now shut down internet services in the valley, a move apparently aimed at preventing caretaker President Amrullah Saleh from tweeting. Panjshir is the only valley that has never been captured, neither by the Taliban nor the Soviets. The province is currently home to the anti-Taliban front led by Amrullah Saleh and Northern Alliance commander Ahmed Shah Massoud's son, Ahmed Massoud.
This is not correct. This is part of their propaganda. They have a video from another place of Afghanistan, perhaps one of the another valleys, and they have shown that even they have distributed to some of the local TV channels in Kabul. This is absolutely wrong.